Good morning, everybody, and welcome into another week and another episode of MLS Monday. I am so happy to see so many of you here today after we've had a long holiday weekend. If you haven't been with us before, welcome. I'm so glad to see you guys here. You can use below. We've got the Q&A is live, and I will also go ahead here and turn on the chat box. There we go. Chat box is on, Q&A box is on. So if you need anything throughout this entire webinar, go ahead and utilize that. I'll keep an eye on this screen over here for that. No questions, a wrong question or a dumb question. That's why you're here, is to get everything answered. And what you're thinking, somebody else is probably thinking too. So today's topic is about, we called it behind the scenes, right? What's going to help versus hurt your listing. So we're going to have a lot of conversations today about some insider knowledge, things that you might not have thought of before on the techie side of it that will, help your listing, hurt your listing, some things that you think, oh, let me do this or let me do that. And it's like, oh, no, that might actually take your listing off of certain websites, and then certain things that you might be missing that you can add to your listing to get it more exposure. And this is for those of you that might have a listing that's live right now and you're thinking, OMG, my days on market is continuing to climb. Like everybody else, what can I do with it? Or is there anything that I can do to fix it? And then for those of you who are going to have listings in the future, it's better off to start off on the right foot, right? So you want to start off right away with your listing put in correctly so that you can get it into the hands of as many buyers, potential buyers, as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you first. And because I still see we've got a good amount of people joining in. Before we talk exactly about listings and what is available to you, I'm going to talk to you about a few tools today, along with we're going to go into the input of the MLS. But what I want to point out, because we've been getting a lot of questions lately, I want to point out some resources to you guys, aside from these MLS Mondays that we have every single week. With that, if you come onto our dashboard and you scroll down here, you will see that there is training and development resources. There is a button that goes right to our YouTube channel. And I would say first and foremost, this is one of the best resources to you to figure out what do the tools do, what do I have access to, how do I use them. Our YouTube channel here has all of the MLS Mondays that you're sitting here on. So we record these, we post them up so that you can, follow back along with them if you need to. But we also, if you go into like our playlist section, we have every single tool broken out by a playlist. So if you're trying to take a deeper dive into any of these tools, trying to figure out what it is that they do, how you can plug it into your business, they're all put into these little buckets for you called playlists so that you can find it easy peasy. And then if you click into, let's find one that's got a lot. So if you click into view full playlist, then you can scroll through all the different videos that pertain to that subject. The other thing we have is out on the rpcra.org website, so your association website. If you come to the hamburger menu here, you go to Florida Gulf Coast MLS, there are a lot of different resources in here. But one of the big things I want to point out is the Training Hub. What this does is takes you to the website for those tools, tech, vendors, whatever platform it is that they have. So if they are on YouTube, we've linked them there on YouTube, but most of the time they've got their own platforms. These are the live webinars that they have going on. So you can scroll through these and find these live webinars. And I've got a note here that you guys are getting feedback on my voice. Michael says he's getting feedback. If any of you guys have any issues with the mic as well, put it in the chat and let me know. I'll see if I can switch it out. So these are live webinars that they are hosting. The date and time is here. But if you scroll down, you'll see that the pre-recorded trainings are also here. So if you click into any of these subjects, it'll open up all of the links for those as well. So just a few different options that are available to you so that you can find more resources, you can find more recordings, aside from just me on your MLS Mondays. So I don't see anybody else in the chat saying that there is feedback, Michael. I'm not sure if it's yours or if it's mine. If anybody else writes in that they've got feedback, I can try to unplug and replug. So with that, aside from all of your lovely resources that you have to learn more about the tools, because those things will, definitely help you out with your listings. They will also help you out with your buyers, manage your business. We've got so many tools for you guys. I want to kind of talk to you guys about some different aspects that are going to help your listing when it comes to the input in the MLS. So first and foremost, we're going to go through several different tactics today. Oh, it's gone. Bless. Okay. Sometimes can be my mic, can be the computer. All right. So when putting your listing into the MLS, one of the big things right now that's going to help your MLS, and we're going to go through help your listing, we're going to go through several tools for this. It's rich media. And you guys have probably heard us talk about this on MLS Mondays before. It's still, here we are a year or two later talking about it, because this is what's really, really going to help your listing at the end of the day. What I see a lot of people missing out on is rich media. And those are different features and things that you can add to your listing. We're going to go through floor plans, putting descriptions in your photos, your videos, things like that. Those are going to enhance your listing a lot, not just inside of Matrix, right? Because if the clients are plugged in here, they're looking at it, they have more things to look at, right? Where rich media is really going to help you is when it syndicates out, right? It goes out to the interwebs, it goes out to the world, it goes out to all of these syndication sites. A lot of those sites have an algorithm that's built on the back end of them that reads through the listing, and based on the things that they want, they're going to put those listings higher up on your list, on their list, right, for searches. The things that have more media and are filled out more are more likely to show up at the top of the list. And, you know, if somebody's searching for something that's very, very niche and very, very specific, and your property fits that, yes, whatever property fits best is best. But a lot of times when people are searching, what they go for first is something very broad, right? They'll search, well, looking for a 3-2 in Cape Coral. Or some people just say Fort Myers. You know, they might just put the city. They might not even put any parameters. And it is at the end of the day, before the consumer starts applying any type of filter, it's all built on that back end algorithm, right? So it's not just going to automatically sort by, hey, what's cheapest to most expensive, or most expensive to cheapest, or closest to you. Until that consumer starts applying those filters, it's all built on that back end algorithm, right? So you want your listing to show up first, to show up most, get seen the quickest, right? So you want to pay attention to what those algorithms are, and a lot of them are built on rich media. So I'll take you guys through some rich media options that you can add into your listing so that you can get it beefed up, as I like to say, and get it to show there at the top. The other thing that we're going to talk through is a lot of nerdy data stuff. So at the end of the day, that's what the MLS is. The MLS is a data tool to help with syndication out. I know a lot of you like to think of it as a marketing tool, but it is a data tool at the end of the day. So it's really important for you to understand how the data works and understand the importance of the data so that your listing can get into the right hands. Because it's not just about saying, oh yeah, sure, it could be this or it could be that. No, what is the property actually, so we can get it to the right person? Because at the end of the day, aside from the fact that if you make a mistake, you could get your listing filtered out of the correct buyer, it's also important not to expand on those details, because we're not just trying to get it seen as many places as possible. We're also trying to not ruin relationships with people and upset people and get like a bad rep for our listings or our data for you or for us. So if you start putting in there, well, yeah, sure, it could be commercial. It's like, well, you're going to just upset somebody when they go out there thinking that it's something you put in there, and you're just saying, oh, it has the potential to, it doesn't actually have it. And now all you have is an upset realtor and customer, right? So we're going to talk through the data pieces. We're going to look at the input in some fields. I'm going to point out to you guys a lot of different fields that get mistaken and get messed up, and that will get your listing taken off of sites. And then we're also going to go and walk through some different areas where you can track your listings activity and behavior so that you can see, hey, maybe it is getting seen a lot. It's just the market, right? Or maybe it's not getting seen a lot and it hasn't gotten any views. Oh gosh, what did I do? What did I click wrong, right? So we're going to kind of go through that whole entire process there. So let's hop back into our dashboard where all of our resources are, and I will share my screen with you. And it's loading. There she is. Perfect. So let's go through some different rich media tools that we've given you guys access to that will help you beef up your listing. First and foremost, on the dashboard here, we're going to go into Cubicasa. So Cubicasa is a tool that is mainly going to be on your phone, like accept cookies. And what this is it creates floor plans for you. Now, this is going to help you in multiple different ways. So you can see here, these are some examples of the floor plans they have. What you want to do is sign up through our portal if you haven't before, because you get free scans through our PCRA and Florida Gulf Coast MLS. There are upgrades that you can purchase into. You get the basic scan for free, and then you can purchase upgrades, and we've got discount for that, but only if you sign up through here. Now, you will download the app on your phone, and it mainly is used through that app, and then they will email you over the different floor plans. So it is as easy as scanning with your phone. You upload it. After a bit, they will then send you your floor plans. If you want, you can watch through the videos that they have on how to use it. It is very, very user-friendly. We've taught people in like an entire room here at the training center in the association and had people walk through with it. The app tells you, hey, start here. You walk through every room, you scan every room. It tells you if you've gotten too close to a wall or if you need to get closer. It gives you very, very clear instructions, so that when you are done and you walk through it, you get this floor plan here. So what's great about this is, first and foremost, you can upload it to your photos, okay? So you've got 50 photos that you can do. We're looking at expanding that right now, but at the end of the day, 50 photos that you can do. And I would say that this is one of the most important photos that you can upload. A lot of people are looking for room dimensions, especially here in Florida. We have a huge transient market where people are, coming in from other states, whether they're looking to snowbird or, they're working from home. We've got a lot of people coming in from out of state, and they don't have the opportunity to see as many homes as possible. They're looking at these floor plans to figure out, is my furniture going to fit? Is the layout going to be right? They're using virtual tours, but then they are also using this. This second thing that this is going to be really, really great for you for is when you go to input the listing, there is a tab where you can put all the room dimensions. Now, it's not required in our MLS. It is an optional section. However, if you put all of that in and it syndicates out to all of the websites, you then have all of the room dimensions listed. That gives you a beefier listing, right? It beefs up that listing. The more data, the more media, the more likely you are to shoot to the top, right? So they've got the visual layout of it, but then they also have the dimensions that they can read through so that they can figure out if this home is going to be what's the best fit for them, right? So great tool, great option for you guys to add on. And you can see down below here, if you come out to the site, it'll show you the different customizations that you can do. There are upgrades, again, that you can pay for. You can do like the dollhouse view, more 3D view. You can definitely make it into something more than a basic floor plan if that's what you desire. So outside of that, another rich media aspect that we have for you guys is virtual tours. So Property Panorama is a newer tool of ours in the past year. We've had them on here a couple times. So if you haven't seen this tool yet, I suggest you go out and watch some of the MLS Mondays on this. This portal does a lot of different marketing features for you. But what's most important here is if you come into my listing, don't have any, hold on one second, I will switch users for you guys really quick so you can see what it looks like. But when you come out into my listing, what Property Panorama does is it takes every single listing that you have and it automatically creates a virtual tour for you. So we have a section in the MLS where you can put virtual tour links. I'll go in as Jane. He's my little guinea pig. He's got lots of listings. He's also our president. So, all right, here we go. You come in here, you go to My Listings, and you will see that there are links here. You can click into it, however way you want to get your way into it. And this is the virtual tour. Oh my goodness, volume. All right, this is the virtual tour that it does create for you. So they have a feed with us directly in the MLS. So when you put something in the MLS, it'll take all the data and all the photos, and it just automatically creates this for you. What's great is we have a feed back into the MLS. If you put a listing in the MLS and you do not put your own virtual tour, it will automatically be placed for you. The reason that we did this for you guys is because we know the fact that it does help with syndication and the algorithm, and it helps beef up your listing. The work is done for you. So if you've never done a virtual tour before, no worries, it's already out there, it's done for you. So if we were to pull up this listing in the MLS, we can copy paste 620 Southwest 26th Street. So if we were to pull up this listing in the MLS, you're going to see that this is already, and I'll open up the classic view for you guys that you're used to. Oh, this expired. So this is the old listing. If I pulled up the right one, it will already be out here for you guys under the virtual tour tab. If you guys have your own virtual tours and you do your own thing, certainly you can put those in there. I'll show you guys in a minute where the virtual tour field is, but these are already done and out here for you. What's great is each one of these also has, it's got the unbranded and the branded version. So everything that goes into the MLS has to be unbranded. That's the one that automatically filters in there for you guys. But if you wanted to grab a branded virtual tour and then put it out onto your social media as well, you could grab that as well. If you needed to edit it at any point, you can also edit this. So if the data, like if you updated something and it's not updating, or you wanted to change something out, you want to change the order of photos, anything like that, you can do that out here. What's great is you also get campaign details on this. So the virtual tour goes on to the MLS. You can also send the virtual tour out anywhere that you please. And they have an entire ad platform that is out here if you wanted to run ads on it as well. Those are additional things. But then you have this entire report that you can then give to your sellers. So really, really cool feature. It's important just from the rich media aspect, but also there are a lot of different things out here that you can do for marketing in this platform. So I suggest you go out and watch that video if you haven't looked into Property Panorama before either. So other rich media features that I want to talk about, first and foremost, we talked about Cubicasa, and then secondly, the virtual tours, which would be Property Panorama. But I also want to kind of turn you guys on to a little bit of AI. If you haven't used this yet, when you are inputting a listing, I'll grab an example one here and click Manage Photos. RESP AI. So this is to enhance the photos that you are putting into the MLS, and it uses AI to read the photos and write your descriptions for you. Let me pull up some examples here. So here are a couple of interior photos of a home. We make sure that the RESP AI is completely checked off here. Open really quick. Okay. When we click open, you'll see that the photos automatically upload. It finds out what category it belongs in, and then it also writes out the description for you. So we've got bathroom, bedroom, kitchen, and then we see here, this says white freestanding soaking tub, glass enclosed shower with marble look wall tiling, and a white vanity with a rectangular undermount sink. So they've done really, really well at describing this photo. I always say it's AI, make sure you double check it. But the reason I want to point this out, first and foremost, this makes your life easier. If you don't like AI, you don't like the descriptions, then do make sure that you are writing out your own descriptions, because these are a big piece into those algorithms out on the syndication sites. The more verbiage and detail and data that you have attached to your photos, the better off. And that all stems from ADA compliance. So a lot of people, if they are visually impaired and they can't see the photo, they will click into the photo and the photo will try to describe itself. But if there is data and there is verbiage on the back end, it will read that photo off to them so that they can see it. That's where it all stemmed from. And now it comes from a place of like, the more data, the more beefy the listing is, the more beefed up the photos are, the more data attached to the photos. You see where I'm going with this. It's going to be the same thing over and over again. So the more data you have attached here, the more likely your listing is to show up there at the top. We have had these categories for a very long time, and then they added descriptions a short time after that. So these have been here for years, but it will make sure that you've selected out what room it is and then describe that room for you. Really, really great feature. Again, RESP AI does it for you. And for me, listen, I was never into journalism. I was never into writing. So for me, it's like really, really painful to try to think of something creative to put in these boxes to type it out. And I'd much rather have AI do it for me and then double check it to make sure it's right than have to start from scratch and recreate the wheel. So there is that for rich media. Now, I want to take a second and talk to you guys about data. Let me shut the screen off here for a second. So before we get into the whole data piece, we'll hop out of media, all the fun things that we have with that, and hop into data. What's really important about this, and for those of you who were with us the last 2 MLS Mondays, you might have heard me already kind of get on this nerdy soapbox. We abide by what is called RISO data standards. RISO is the Real Estate Standards Organization, and they create what is called a data dictionary. Now, the RISO Standards Data Dictionary is what makes sure that we're all speaking like the same type of data language, right? It's to make sure that I'm not calling something a bedroom and you're calling something a sleeping room, right? We want to all communicate the same, because at the end of the day, a lot of the tools of where this MLS communicates to, it's nationwide, right? So we've got a lot of stuff here that we call something different than what they might call it in Montana or New York. At the end of the day, though, we try to make sure that the real estate organization all speaks the same language, so that when it goes out to all of these syndication sites, it's landing in the right spot, right? Because if I call something a bedroom and you call it a sleeping room, if I'm sending out bedroom data and your website is receiving sleeping data, it's going to say, hey, there's no bedroom. I don't see any data for it. It doesn't exist, right? So that's why it's so important that we all speak the same language. So a lot of times, if something seems confusing or it doesn't make sense when you're inputting a listing and you're looking at the data fields and you're like, well, in Florida, we call it this. So why are we, calling it something else? A lot of the time, the answer is going to come down to the RISO data standard. So we want to make sure that your listing and all of your data ends up in the right, not just goes to the site, but it ends up in the right spot. It gets seen by the right people, so that when they're filtering by a certain type of field, your data is in there and it's correct. That's like how this whole data real estate industry operates. It's also important to keep in mind that at the end of the day, we still have all of our local MLSs, because there is what's called hyper-local data. So there's a certain amount of data that you can have that is just local data, right? So here we've got like canal widths, we've got, is it Gulf frontage, we've got, all the things that make Florida and Southwest Florida specifically so unique, right? You go to other states and other MLSs and other cities, and they've got like, is there a mountain range in the back? Like, how far to the ski lodge? They've got, all these different fields that we wouldn't see here. There are a certain amount of fields that your syndication sites will take in that are extra fields, and they'll put the extra stuff that is local, they'll put that in under features, right? So a lot of times, people call and they say, well, why doesn't Realtor.com put the canals at the top? Not everybody has canals, and Realtor.com is a nationwide tool. So kind of keep those things in mind when you're putting stuff in, and if you understand how the data works and you understand how the mapping of the data works, it'll help you better understand how you can put your listing data in the best so that it gets into the right hands. So I'll get off of that nerdy soapbox unless anybody has any questions on how RISO works and the data standards. I will let you guys know that your MLS is RISO standard certified, so we're 2.0 certified, which means that we're good to go, we're top notch, everything's where it should be. So let's kind of hop into the input fields, and I want to walk you through some things that might we commonly see people make issues with. Now, you're going to hear me say a lot through this. What we're focusing on here is, if you are filling out a listing, first and foremost, you want to fill it out as much as possible. Put everything in there that you can. And I'm sure if you're in this class, you're probably not one of the people who just like slaps it in there and goes, okay, bare minimum, right? Because you're here, you're trying, you want to do what's best for your listing. But I'm going to say that first and foremost, make sure you fill out your listing to the best of its capabilities and not just what's required, right? Like you hit submit, you get all the red markers on the listing and you're going, okay, let me just put in what's required. And I put 5 words in the description. That's not going to get you anywhere with your listing. The more data, the more verbiage, the more media, the more photos, the more likely your listing is to get seen. However, what we then fall into on the flip side is too much. And that's where, as realtors, a lot of times we can get creative, right? We're like, well, it could be this or it could be that, when it's not indeed that. You're stretching the truth. And that's where you're going to land into a problem where you're going to get yourself filtered out of people's inboxes or people's searches. So my biggest example to you guys before we open up this input here is a lot of times, especially with lot and land, we see people who, maybe they don't properly research or they don't know. what the lot is. They're like, well, it could be residential and it could be commercial and it could be this, and you can change it into anything you want. So they check off all of the boxes. They're like, yep, it's zoned for everything. You can do anything. And what you don't realize at the end of the day is you're hurting yourself because you've checked off commercial and it's actually residential, but commercial, there's a lot of websites out there that don't take commercial. Commercial is like a whole nother animal, right? And there's so many other tools that do commercial, but Realtor.com and Zillow and a lot of these big sites, they don't take in commercial. So you check off that box and then you wonder why your house isn't selling. Well, you got a little too creative and now you're not showing up on the correct sites because everybody thinks that your, lot and land is commercial. So those are the kind of concepts that we're talking about at the end of the day. All right, let me reshare my screen here. And it's loaded. Perfect. Let me move my little control button to the side. So let's go into a listing input and we will add a new one. I'm not going to take you guys through the whole listing input. We've got plenty of classes for that. And I'm not here to take you through every single field today, I promise. We will start with a blank listing and I kind of just want to hop through here. So first and foremost, I want to talk about your statuses. It is really, really, really important to understand your statuses. Obviously, when you're putting in a listing, there are only two ways you can go. You've got incomplete and you've got active, right? So incomplete means you're working on it. Make sure you save it before you leave it so you don't lose any of your data. And then active means, boom, it's going out on market. But I bring up statuses because once you move out of that active box, there's a lot of confusion around the different statuses. And I want to point out that moving something into withdrawn is just temporarily on hold, right? It does not completely, there's a difference between withdrawn and then there's terminated. And a lot of you, if you're an agent, you're not going to see terminated because only brokers can terminate a listing and only brokers can terminate that contract. So we get a lot of calls here where people will withdraw it because they think if they withdraw it for 30 days and put it back on the market, it will reset the days on market. That is not the case. Days on market will pause, it will stop counting, but when you put it back on, it's going to pick up right back where that withdrawn status is. If your seller has instructed you to terminate it and they're going to relist it later, right? You always have to have the document. You can't just play around with the data and withdraw it or terminate it as you see fit. You've got to have it in writing. But if they tell you, hey, I want this off the market, we want to let it sit for a while, we're going to put it back on the market because we want the days on market to reset. It has to be terminated for 30 days, not withdrawn. So it's important to know the difference between withdrawn and terminated. Withdrawn means you can just reactivate it at any time. It's just temporarily on hold. Terminated is it's completely off the market, it's done, it's gone, and that's, eventually one day going to be a new listing if they decide to relist. All right, hopping over into the general tab, there are a few things here that I want to point out to you guys that are really important. Now you'll notice I started with a blank listing. Most of you are going to start with the PID and pulling it up through the tax roll so that it fills out somewhere between 20 and 30 fields that we have that automatically fill out for you, which is really important and really great so you can make sure it's correct. It's coming from LIPA, it's the tax roll, it's the correct information. And there's less room for error there. So I always suggest start with the tax roll as long as it is in the tax roll and it's not protected data. So in here, if you want to point out before we lose track of it, we talked about the virtual tour links before. We've got two fields, the virtual tour link and a second virtual tour link field here. So if you don't put your own virtual tour in there, again, Property Panorama will automatically, when you activate it, it'll send out to Property Panorama and then Property Panorama will send a link back and it'll put it in there automatically for you. If you don't see it right away, sometimes the syndication can take a few minutes, so do not panic. But what is important out here is right off the bat, getting the information correct. That is the address, the city, the state, and we see this mistake so many times. I know you're thinking to me like, oh my gosh, is she really telling me to put the right city in there? Duh. But really, really, really pay attention to this. Our compliance manager deals with this all day where people just, I don't know, you fat finger it, you're not paying attention, you're in a rush. And she tells people all the time because she's, old school, she does math and accounting and stuff. And she's like, look, you want to read from top to bottom over and then back from bottom to top and over, right? triple check your listings, the amount of mistakes that are made. And when this first sends out and it goes out to everybody as a new listing, but there's no taking that back. There's no, yes, we can change it from Fort Myers to Cape Coral because you accidentally put the wrong city. But once it's out, it's out. That first impression of it sending to everybody is not going to happen again. And maybe they go to check it later and go, oh, look, that's actually Cape Coral. But the chances of that happening are slim. So I cannot, explain enough how important it is that you get this right on the first time. The other things that are important in here are going to be the geo area. So a lot of times, this may pull up with the property tax roll, but if it doesn't, the geo area, we see a lot of people just clicking whatever they want in there because they don't understand the geo codes. So do make sure you're clicking the right geo code. There are a lot of people who filter their listings out for their buyers just by geo code. Because you've got city, right? And then you break it down a little bit more. You've got zip code, and then you break it down a little further, and then you got geo codes. So it is more of a neighborhood-centric code. If you do not know what your geo code is, you can go out to the search and go to the map. And I can pull this up at the end if anybody needs it, if anybody needs help with geo codes. But if you go to the search and you go to map, you can add on a filter for geo codes. So that'll help you out with that. Second off here, though, is the map. So it will pull in when you put in the address, it will automatically place the pin on the map. Do double check it. There's a lot of times where people just grab it and move it for some reason, or they don't put it in the right spot. Make sure your map pin is exactly where you want it, right? So you can place it yourself. If it's already placed, you can pick it up and you can move it. Maybe it's like just to the side, especially condos for some reason. It's like over by the pool instead of by the building, and I don't know, it gets put in random places. And there are a lot of cities where you see the map pin moved. How often do you type it into Google and you don't end up at the right place, right? So double check your map pin, because that's a huge thing. If people have any filters on by like maps, right? Because you can go in there and you can draw like crazy shapes around your neighborhood that you specifically want. And if it's not in the right map spot, you can get filtered out of being in the hands of the right buyer. All right. Obviously, I'm going to tell you every single field is important, but I'm just for now pointing out the ones that may be problematic. On this page, last but not least, the status type on here. Assignment of contract, known damage, land value, new construction, pre-construction, resale, under construction. We see a lot of people confuse these. Most of you are going to be right here in resale. If somebody's like, hey, I've lived here for 5 years and we're ready to move, that's a resale, okay? Hey, I've lived here forever, ready to sell. That's a resale. Hey, I've lived here for 2 days. I'm ready to sell. That's a resale. New construction, pre-construction, under construction. All right. Those statuses, if you're representing a buyer, it's very important to know and to continue to update them as the status changes. Pre-construction means you have a permit, but ground has not broken. Okay. Under construction means the ground has been broken and it is under construction. New construction, you can change it to that status once the CO is filed and completed. So if you have a CO, then you are new construction. If somebody has lived in there for 5 days and it's a 2026 build and you go to list it, I'm sorry, I know they only lived in there 5 days, but it's not new construction. It is now resale. We have a lot of people who say, oh, they barely lived in it, so it's kind of like new construction. It's not. Once somebody's lived in it, it's not new construction anymore. All right, land value means there is something on the property, but you're just selling it at land value. This became very, very popular after our hurricane seasons. It's been used also with like houses who have fires or other kinds of things, condemned homes, stuff like that. Known damage means it is a damaged home and it is priced accordingly. This is to help appraisers. This also became very popular after the hurricane. It does not mean, oh, at one point they had a flood 5 years ago and they've corrected it, so now I have to mark it known damage forever. No, this is a property that is currently damaged. But the one I want to talk about that's the most important is assignment of contract. We get a lot of confusion around this. Assignment of contract is a specific type of deal, okay? If you just have a listing agreement and you're putting it up, that doesn't mean, oh yeah, they're going to get a contract eventually, so I'm assigning a contract. No, that's a resale property. Assignment of contract is a very specific type of deal where you have a property under contract already and you are selling off the rights to that contract. So keep that in mind because we have a lot of people who accidentally click assignment of contract instead of resale property. And there are a lot of people who are filtered into not look at assignment of contract because they don't want to deal with buying out somebody else's contract. So this is something that will really, really, really hurt you if you put it in there and that's not what it is. All right, next up, room and sizes. This is something we talked about earlier. This is not a required area, but it is very, very important for you to put in as much detail as possible so that when it goes out to those syndication sites, yours has the most data in it. So if you go ahead and do that Cubicasa scan, or if they already have a floor plan, you can go ahead and plug each of these in, select the room, and put in the length and the width. All right, next up, this is the features tab. There are a lot of things to put in here, and I know everybody just gets a very heavy sigh when they open up this tab, but all of this data in here is very important. It's all the small details that we don't think matter, but that matter to everybody else. So this is a tab that's very important to fill out exactly what the property has and only what it has. If you start getting creative and thinking, well, oh, it could have this, or oh, it might have, there are people filtering by it, and you're going to get filtered out of stuff. The thing that I want to point out on here that is most important is when we talk about amenities, right? Because this is the features of the home and the amenities of the community. It is important to know that the way that the data works is if the amenity belongs to the community, like the pool or the boat dock or the golf course, whatever it is, if it's for the entire community, it needs to go in here under amenities, right? These are community amenities. If that amenity belongs to the physical house, then it goes down here in the given category. So you've got the private pool and the private spa, or like I like to call it hot tub, right? But we all call stuff differently. The private pool and private spa are for if it is attached to the property, if it is actually under that PID and on that parcel. So it's important to know that there are different categories for each of those. And that is so people don't get upset and they can specify out the difference between, no, I want a pool in my backyard, or I don't care if the pool is in my backyard or if it's in the community, I just want a pool, right? People get really upset. That's something that we get, that people violate all the time. So we have those in two different sections for that reason, so that people can look appropriately for what it is that they are looking for. That also goes for the waterfront and the golf access. If it's with the community, it goes in the amenities section. If it's attached to the physical property, then it goes here in the waterfront and golf access section so that it lands into the right hands. All right, next up is the financial tab. In here, lots of good information about the tax. Hopefully both of this pulls in for you off of LIPA or whatever property appraiser site is pulling in from, so that you don't have to go out and search for it. It is also very important to put in all of the HOA fees. Those you will get from the community docs and the homeowner. But the other thing that I want to point out in here is the other field that we see mistaken a lot that might confuse you guys is housing for older persons. This means that it is for a community that is age restricted, right? So you might know it as 55 and older or 65 and older. It's called housing for older persons because that is the correct term now, because there are communities with all kinds of different ranges. That used to be in the MLS is 55 and older. We changed that a couple of years ago. But if your home is not in a community, and this is where we see the biggest mistake made, maybe it's in the middle of Cape Coral, not age restricted, anybody can live there. A lot of people look at this field and go, yeah, sure, an older person could live there. And then they click yes. And then you've got a big problem because anybody who is like 55 and younger, 65 and younger, and they've opted out of housing for older persons, right? Because maybe we're 30 and we're looking for a home. They are not going to see this house because this is meant for if it is restricted to an age, okay? So make sure that you don't kind of get creative again here and go, yeah, sure, an older person could live here. No, that is meant for restriction, and it's a big mistake that we see a lot. I do want to point out too, as we go through these, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, okay, great, you know all these things. How am I supposed to know all these things? What if I don't know? That's why we have all of these lovely thought bubbles next to everything, so that you can get more information. If you look at something and you question it a little bit whatsoever, you're like, well, maybe definitely click on that thought bubble. It will help you out to make sure that you're correctly putting that data in. We are currently doing an overhaul of all of the thought bubbles. We are adding a whole bunch more information and verbiage to those thought bubbles. So you'll see that they're starting to expand, they're starting to grow, more details coming in as we continue to get more questions about things. So these thought bubbles should be your lifeline. They are in here on the input, but they are also on the search. So whether you're on like the listing side or the buyer side, the thought bubbles match on either side for you. All right, the most important tab for input for where we see mistakes is syndication. Okay, so this is what determines where your listing is going, how it's going out, if it's restricted whatsoever. And a lot of times people will call us and they'll say, hey, I've had my listing listed for 10 days and not a single person has called on it. Nobody has seen it. What is going on? And we see that it has listing on the internet. No. Well, there's your answer. And then they say to us, oh my God, can you reset my days on market? I had no idea. We cannot reset days on market. We do not have that available in our technology. It would be abused too much, but really pay attention to these. So going through these, delayed marketing, that's a feature that we have for you, for your sellers who may need more options. Maybe they say, hey, I want you to start marketing it, but like, I don't want it going out everywhere. I'm not ready, for that many views yet. You can do delayed marketing. What that does is it puts it live on the MLS, but it does not put it out onto the internet anywhere. And you can set, so if we say delayed marketing, yes, then you can set what day it will go live. So delayed marketing can go up to 14 days. So we could say, hey, they're not ready for it to go live until the 15th. Maybe you just have like a photo you took on your phone. You're waiting for the photographer to get out there. The seller is still painting the house, whatever it may be. Everybody's got special circumstances, but you want to be able to start posting about it. You just don't want it out on all the sites yet. Delayed marketing is going to be an option that's there for you. But if you are looking to put it on the internet right away and you're ready to go, make sure this is delayed marketing. No, you don't want to delay it going out there and then wondering, why is my listing not out the internet and why am I not getting any views? Well, if delayed marketing is on, that would be an answer for you. All right, foreclosure, that's pretty straightforward. Short sales, auctions, that makes sure it goes in the right data buckets for the type of listing. But these other ones down here, this again is where it kind of gets sticky of, where you could mess up your listing. Listing on the internet, yes or no. If you don't want it going out onto the internet at all, you don't want to set delayed marketing, but you just don't want it at all, you can click yes. But if you make a mistake, then your listing is going to be withheld only on the MLS. Address on the internet, yes or no. So this determines of whether they're okay with their address being out on the internet. However, if you click address on the internet, no, there are some sites that may just not publish it altogether. There are some sites that don't just post anonymous, unaddressed listings, okay? So it's important to keep that in mind. If you've got somebody with a security issue, that feature is there for you, but it does not necessarily mean that all of the websites out there are going to be able to take in that data without publishing the address. So if you click address on the internet, no, that may also help or hurt your listing, depending on what your situation is, right? If you want to allow there to be blogging, VOW, that stands for virtual office website. So anybody where they have to like log in to a back end for your company to see listings, like we've got One Home, which is a tool that we offer you guys to plug your buyers into, but a lot of other people have tools as well as their companies, and they use a virtual office website link to, or feed link, feed that. And if you don't want there to be blogging and then AVMs here, again, if you're confused by our alphabet soup, you can click here, automated valuation market, right? That's where it tells them what they believe the property is worth. You can click yes or no. Again, though, sometimes the sites may be able to take it off, but if they don't want to play the game and they don't want to take it off, they're just not going to publish the listing at all. So if you're like, well, no, I don't want the site to say what the house is worth. I know I overpriced it by $100,000. It doesn't necessarily mean it's just going to scrub that data. It just means for the sites that do have AVMs, your property may not go on there. And then you can also control if it goes out to these websites. So broker reciprocity, which means any broker that has an IDX feed. Homes.com, ListHub. ListHub also sends out to multiple sites. They're like the middleman. NaplesArea.com, Realtor.com, and then MLS Advantage, which is the statewide MLS feed, yes or no. So it's important to pay attention to all of these because these can really, really help or hurt your listing when it comes to visibility. Next up is listing office and agent. So all of this is important. We see a lot of people also will make a mistake with the plugging in the expiration date or the listing date. These dates are important because if you wake up one day and you're like, I just really haven't heard anything about my property, and you go out and you see that it expired 5 days ago, you're going to have a bit of a panic attack. So be very careful when plugging in these different dates and addresses. The other thing that is important, now this stuff isn't necessarily going to affect the speed, but it may affect, what people are looking for in a relationship with the selling agent, the listing agent, is the sign on the property with seller contact info and then contact the seller for showing. This does not mean you are not the seller. The seller is the person who is literally selling the property. So you would say yes to these if you were not representing if you weren't representing the seller. Maybe you were just listing it, but you're not there for any kind of showings, you're not there for contract or anything like that, which is perfectly fine. We've got all kinds of different models that coexist here in the MLS. But it's important to know that a lot of people look at this and say, yep, I'm the seller and my sign's in the front yard and yeah, I'm the seller, contact me for showing. And it's like, you're the seller's agent, not the seller. And I see your question there about the YouTube videos. I will get to that, Diane. Thank you. And then, so next up is listing broker will be available for contract presentation and negotiations and will perform post-contract services. Again, this is stating you are the listing broker. Are you going to be there for the contract, and are you going to be there for the services afterwards until close? Important to know the difference. We see a lot of people just kind of blow through these, but they are really important fields. Last but not least, remarks section. Fill this out as much as possible, beef it up as much as possible. Again, the more data you have, the more likely you are to show up at the top of these syndication sites and to get more views. I do want to point out it's very important. It has nothing to do with whether your listing is going to be a success or not, but it will have to do with whether you have to pay a fine or not. Do not put commission anywhere in these. Don't try to be cute. Don't try to come up with phrases. Don't do it. It's a $1,000 fine for commission. So beef these up as much as possible, but please, 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 please do not put commission in there. Let me check my little checklist here for your data pieces. We went through assignment contract, withdrawn, commercial. Perfect. All right. So with 13 minutes, last but not least, I'm going to take you guys over to a couple of different tools so that you can keep a track of how your listings are doing. You can figure out if you've done the right things and where your listing is at. Through this, if you have any other questions, throw them in the chat box, throw them in the Q&A. I can come back to this as well if there's any type of field that you've been struggling with. So let's go out to My Listings, and I want to show you guys what is inside of Matrix. If you were to come out here and click into My Listings, it's going to give you the single line version of all of your listings here. You can see I've got, these are fraud properties we had that we moved into my name, but these ones are terminated. However, the options that you have here in the drop down, this is the agent single line, you're going to want to move this over to what is called hit counters. What hit counters does is gives you all kinds of data on your listing. So this is always, like, for me, the first thing I go to when somebody says, hey, my listing is struggling, I think it didn't go out on the internet. I'll go out and see if it got, if there's views, if it went out to one home. This is kind of where we first start to diagnose things. But it's really, really good for you because you can see from day one, like, how's that listing doing? These are also reports that you can give to the seller. There are different numbers that you can give to the seller, just, so that they know, hey, yeah, I'm doing my job. Your listing's out here. Here's how many people it's, got to view it. And that'll help with conversations. Maybe you need to lower the price. Maybe you need to do, who knows what you need to do with it. You probably already know. They probably just didn't listen to you, but these are great pieces to add to those conversations. So you see how many client portals it went out onto. So that would be one home, right? How many people was it sent to in their portals? How many people actually viewed it in the portals? How many people favorited it? How many people marked it as a possibility? This is how many auto emails it went out onto, which you probably thinking to yourself, well, client portals and auto emails, aren't those the same thing? No. Some people can set up additional searches in their portals. So you'll see a good amount of numbers there. And then the auto emails are physically, if it was in the auto email that they are receiving. And then it breaks it down by just the previous 14-day views. And then the agent published and agent rejected. If you have ever set yourself up or set a buyer up on concierge mode, there are some agents that use that where every morning the listings all get sent to them and they either approve or deny the listings before it goes to the customer. That's where those would display, if they approved it or if they denied it before it went to the customer. Agent IDX, and then agent views. So this is more so like if somebody viewed it, one of our members within the MLS. So all of this data up to here is regarding the buyer portal, the One Home portal. And then from here, this would be any agent views, anything that's happening inside of Matrix. So again, some key indicators, great numbers for you to be able to see if you are doing the right thing. The other feature that is available, which we've got discounts for you, is Listrak. So Listrak does have a cost to it, but if you click on it through our dashboard, you'll get it at a better rate. So this is, well, there it goes through. Oh, I'm in Shane. So you can see, bless, Shane has it. So Shane has the upgraded version. It is $9.99 per month, and then there is a discount also if you just pay for the whole year. But what this does is it'll give you readings on all of your listings outside of it gives you the MLS, but then also outside of the MLS. You can break it down listing by listing. This is all of his listings all together. So you can see how it's done on Zillow. You can see how it's done on MLS, Realtor.com, the broker syndication sites, right? They all have IDX feeds, Trulia, and then other portals. So in here, you can see the amount of visitors, and we can travel through it week by week. What's really, really cool, though, is you've got the overall performance broken down for each listing, and then heat map. And when you start getting into properties that are really attracting like overseas and global attention, it's really, really cool to see. It'll help you focus on if you're doing any extra advertising or trying to figure out where the attention is coming from. So again, this is the overall view of all of his listings. If you go into each listing, let it load here for a second. This is something that you can share with your sellers, but also so that you can view it again, because these are just things that are going to help you make sure that you've done the right thing when you're advertising that listing, when you're plugging all the data in, when you're using your media, whatever it might be. So you can see here, this is the information just for one property. All right, so let me check our chat box and our Q&A. That is everything when it comes to making sure that you've done the right thing for your listing. That's the back end information. That is, you know, all the tricks of the trade. If you feel like at any point you are struggling with something, whether it is a field or you're looking at your listing and you're like, I just don't feel like, you know, it's getting the attention it should, or something's wrong, definitely call us. You know, we've got a whole team here that will look at your listing. They'll check it out. We're not going to tell you or advise you, you know, here's what you should do with your listing from an advertising standpoint. We'll tell you from a data standpoint in the MLS to make sure that the fields are correct. We see these every day. We see the common mistakes that are made. We can help you there. We do get a lot of calls where somebody will tell us, do you think it's priced right? What should I price it at? That's your job. That's not our job. We're not licensed realtors. We can't help you there. But we certainly can take a look at your listing and help you out. Or if there's a specific field that you're trying to put in, you can describe the property to us. We can tell you, you know, what that classifies as. We are here to help you guys out with that. We know that every day, especially when you talk to your sellers, they'll talk you in circles and make you believe something. And then you look at it and you're totally confused and you're like, is that a bedroom? I don't know if that's a bedroom. Is it a den? I don't know. You know, so we're here to help you guys out with that. If it's not in the thought bubble, give us a call, give us an email. We're here for that. And then Diane, you asked about the YouTube channel for all of the videos. So I'm just going to go ahead and send you the link. It is also on our dashboard as well. So on our dashboard, if you scroll down, you click on the YouTube icon, it'll be there, but I will grab this for you and put it in the chat. So if you need our, and oh, let me send it to everybody. I just sent it to myself. That doesn't help you. There we go. All right. So that is the link to our YouTube channel. So you're welcome. So if you guys need that, you can go grab it. You can check out all of our tools, but also everything, all of the videos that we do here. This recording will be up before the end of the week. So, but again, if you guys need anything else, we're here for you. Call in, email us, mls@rpcra.org. So I don't see any other questions in the chat. I hope that you guys have a super successful week post-holiday and that all of your listings get contracts on all of your buyers find their dream home this week. Until then, we'll see you guys next Monday.